All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to you all. Good evening. Today is Thursday, December 30th, 2021, and you are now watching the People of the Lie review series finale. This is the final installment of the series that we started well over a year ago. So we made it, we did it. I said I was going to finish it this year, and it looks like we're going to pull that off. Okay, so welcome everybody. First, I want to thank you all so much for your patience. I know that this has been very, very long and drawn out. I just wanted to bring you a very high quality show. And to me, if that meant waiting a little while, including a few months in between each episode, so be it. It was worth it to me. I do apologize for the wait, and I am 100% open to suggestions on how to do our next book review faster. We're not going to do a book review for a while. I think we're going to take like a year off from a good book review, okay? We're going to take like a good year off. But when we do it again, I'm open to suggestions on how to do this faster. You know what I mean? So whatever you guys come up with, I will certainly consider. Welcome everyone to the chat. Thank you everyone for the birthday wishes. I won't confirm or deny the actual date. However, this is my birthday week and I am a Capricorn. So you only got but so much to work with there. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you guys. And I'm excited to be here. Let's do this. I cannot believe 2021 is almost over, but I guess it is. I guess it's just one of those things that you have to come to terms with and accept. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Let's jump right in and get started. So, as always, we start off with our disclaimers, same ones as always. This series deals with evil, spirituality, and religion. There is heavy psychological content that can be potentially triggering. And we will be sticking with traditional religious interpretations for the sake of consistency and clarity, okay? So I want to make sure everyone is aware of those things. You should be by now, but just in case you're new. Also, we do have a resource in BetterHelp. If you just find yourself too disturbed by all of this material, you can talk to someone virtually and they will be there for you for as long as you sign up for. So there's the link there on your screen, and people who sign up using my link can get 10% off of whatever they sign up for. So check it out. I didn't have any particular issues with it. I know some people have a certain opinion, but they were all right with me. I just couldn't afford to keep it up, pretty much. I'm not bawling like that yet. When I'm really truly bawling, I think I want like 3 or 4 different therapists because I want to bounce stuff off of them, you know? I don't want to trust the guidance of just one. So I'll probably have at minimum 3, you know? And I think that's just about how many I need, honey, to sort all this out. This is the book that we are reviewing, People of the Lie, The Hope for Healing Human Evil by Dr. M. Scott Peck, written in 1982, and eerily parallels today everything that we've gone through since this book has been published. The parallels are really, truly creepy. And honestly, he could have written it in 2021 and it would fit perfectly. Okay. So it's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. Even though we've gone very in depth in this series, I still leave a lot out. So, for that reason, I do think you should get your own copy. There is a link to purchase your own copy in the description box, and doing so helps out the channel. All right. So, let's keep moving. Before we get started, let us do a brief word from our sponsor. If your hair is anything like mine, it is thick, kinky, curly, and defiant. It can also be prone to tangles, making wash days very difficult. I was just about to cut it all off when I discovered Cosmology's products. Their styling tools are like nothing I've ever found anywhere. They are sturdy, strong, and made with one mold, meaning no individual parts. This helps the hair slip through the tool, making detangling a breeze. My hair fights, and Cosmology's tools fight back. My personal favorite are the paddle comb and the Curls Plus comb. Check out their range of products today using the link in the description box below, and use the discount code PTE at checkout for 10% off of your purchase. Cosmology's tools changed my life and hair routine. I hope they do the same for you. All right, for all the thick haired children in the chat, check out those products. I swear by them and I use them every single time I wash my hair. So let us jump into our final episode of People of the Lie review series. Okay. Whew. This book has taken us down quite the journey. And he closes the book out. It's not a very long chapter, but he just kind of closes the book out with some final thoughts and some advice as we move forward dealing with evil people. And one of the things that he really poses the question to the most is, should evil be studied? Can evil be studied? And what happens to the people who study evil, basically? So he kind of advocates for a few different things. Why don't we take a look at some of those things, and we will close out our series. And by the way, you guys, I will be doing a supercut of this series, meaning I'm going to put all the episodes together in one video file and just edit out, the breaks and things like that. And then I'm going to stream it just like I did 1984, and it'll be like a watch party. Okay. It's probably going to be like, I would estimate probably about 12 hours long. So obviously the expectation is not that you would sit there for 12 hours unless you're like on a road trip or something. I don't know. It's your life. You do what you want to do, but it'll be very similar to 1984. So you're all invited. Please pop in and out as that supercut is happening and just share your thoughts. And this book has been so good, it kind of doesn't matter what part you pop in on. You'll pop in on something good if you just listen for 5 minutes, okay? And then I'm going to edit it very, very well. So let's move on. So tonight's topic, tonight's theme, judge not. Let's continue. So this is on page 254. And it says, it is only quite recently that the secular majority of society has seriously concerned itself with the social manifestations of evil, okay? And in this particular part, well, he gets into it a little bit more as the book goes on. But what he was basically saying is when we stopped needing to be in pure survival mode all the time, like you're getting chased by a buffalo, you're camped out in the middle of a blizzard in whatever home you've built and trying to survive that. You know what I mean? You're in the wilderness. It's kind of hard to be a narcissist in the wilderness. I'm sure they exist, but when every day is literally life and death, you don't have time to run these little silly mind games, basically. But now that society has evolved somewhat, and I do mean somewhat, we've started to concern ourselves with the social manifestations of evil. So now it appears, and this was written in 1982, sorry, 1983. I keep saying 82, 83, 83. Now we have the luxury of concerning ourselves with the social manifestations of evil, primarily concerning ourselves with the question of why. Why evil? Why does this happen? Why do people choose evil? Is evil even real, or is evil relative? Meaning, we have assigned good and bad to certain behaviors, or we've assigned the term evil to certain behaviors. And most people, I would say most people, would probably agree on what some of those behaviors are. It would be kind of hard to debate. However, is evil relative? Meaning, what we consider evil, is it really, or is it just what we've considered evil? For example, when a lion hunts down a gazelle and kills it for dinner, is that evil? I mean, it certainly looks evil, and obviously the comparison is not the same. That's the animal kingdom. And we are well, I guess we are the animal kingdom, right? We're just allegedly at the top of it. Forgive me, I forget my taxonomies. I really do. But at any rate, evil could be relative, it could not be relative, all those things. But only recently have we started to concern ourselves with those things. Okay. So I think that's a good thing, because when you really think about it, human beings up until this point probably really didn't have time to think and philosophize about these types of things. But then again, I mean, when you think about the philosophers and the Bible itself, the Bible was written so long ago, so they have been thinking about evil. But what I'm saying is, I don't think they had time to sit around on a computer or on a smartphone like some of you are on right now and discuss evil from the comfort of their living room with air conditioning. You see what I mean? So we have only recently begun to discuss this at a more in depth level and take it seriously, right? Because I think a lot of people really want to believe that evil is not real. Because for evil to be real, that implies some sort of spirituality, that implies some sort of higher entity or entities, one of which is good, one of which is bad. So, in order for you to believe in evil, you kind of have to believe in God too, in a way. And a lot of people don't want to believe in God. So, they like to dismiss evil as something purely scientific. Well, let me rephrase, they like to dismiss evil as something purely psychological, meaning it can be understood, it can be treated, it can be assessed. And the question is, can it be? Can it be? Who knows? Page 255. Evil is a moral judgment, and the author is proposing that it is a scientific judgment. So remember, he actually started the book out advocating for the study of evil, because essentially what he's saying is the scientific community doesn't like to go there. The scientific community likes explainable things, things that can be measured, things that can be seen, things that can be tested. That's what the scientific community likes, and for good reason. But what the scientific community struggles with are those things that science can't explain. But the author kind of believes that science can, if they would just give it a shot, basically. Like if they would just try to study it, perhaps they could start to develop what he calls a psychology of evil. But nobody wants to go there. So the only people who are left to study it are people like pastors, preachers, um, people who perform exorcisms. That's the only people left to study it. And from a scientific perspective, no one really considers that credible. So I believe in his mind, it's probably a real loss for the scientific community to not understand evil truly. Okay. So also on page 255, it says, if we examine the matter more closely, however, we will see that it is both impossible and itself evil to totally refrain from making moral judgments. Okay, so he goes much more in depth into this in the book, But essentially, what he was saying is an attitude. Well, this is directly out of the book. An attitude of I'm okay, you're okay may have a certain place in facilitating our social relationships, but only a place. Was Hitler okay? Lieutenant Calley, Jim Jones? And then he goes on to ask, like, were all these things okay? In other words, a very permissible society that likes to look the other way all the time, all the time. People love to say either only God can judge me, or, I don't judge, I don't judge, I don't judge. And I don't think people truly understand what they're saying, or then again, maybe they do. But if you really think about it, you guys, the people who quote unquote don't judge are often the ones who end up in really messed up situations. Why? Because they didn't judge. They don't judge. They don't judge this person. They don't judge that person. They don't judge that situation. They don't judge the risk. They don't judge the reward. They don't judge anything. So, in other words, they've taken a lack of judgment into a full on lack of assessment of everything. So, they don't assess anything. And they often end up in really, really bad situations. So, for example, let's say they have a friend who's kind of sketchy, but up until this point, they've been okay. And this friend wants to go to a party or something. So the other friend says, sure. So they go to this party. And when they get there, the people at the party make the one friend feel very uncomfortable. But the sketchy friend is like, it's all good, right? Now, I won't finish that example because I don't want to be grim, but just imagine how many scenarios have started like that ended up poorly. Yeah, I was with this one friend who had already kind of given them sketch vibes, but they don't judge. Then this one friend took them to this other house with all these other sketchy people, but they don't judge, so they stayed. And how many different ways has that story ended up before? Versus the person who either A, wouldn't hang out with the sketchy person to begin with, or B, as soon as they felt uncomfortable at the second location, they just would have left. Like, nah, I think I'm good. Thanks. Not feeling too well. Gonna go home, got a headache type situation. You see what I mean? It's the ones who don't judge who often get themselves in trouble because they don't want to feel like they're a judgmental person. And it gets a little complicated, but he actually does go on to clarify it a bit. And the point that he's making here is that to not judge ever is evil by itself. So here's another example. Think about how many situations where a single parent, brings another adult into their home around their kids. And this adult gave some type of warning sign, some type of vibe, but they don't judge. They don't judge. And as a result, something ends up happening with the kids. You see what I'm saying? But they don't judge. They don't judge people. You see what I mean? So it's very easy to get carried away with. And that's actually a point that he makes in the book. He's like, at some point, if you keep judging, like, let me be honest, before we go on, I was a little underwhelmed by how the book ended, considering how heavy it was hitting. And the reason I was underwhelmed is because I felt like he was a little bit all over the place. He was saying, we need to study evil, but don't study it too much. He was saying, like, and then he ended it all with love. And I was just like, oh my God. You know what I mean? And it's very sweet. But when you realize who you're dealing with, like, they don't respond to love. But we'll get there. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, what he says, we need to study evil, but not too much, lest we become evil ourselves, right? So that is a very, very big concern of his, that those who basically spend too much time with evil end up becoming evil themselves. And wow, that's I don't know. It's a concept. It's definitely a concept, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one, because I feel like you can't be made what you aren't. I feel like you either are or you aren't. You either are evil or you aren't. You know what I mean? So I guess the question is, can good be corrupted? Can someone who's truly good be corrupted? Is the question. That is the question. All right. So, continuing on that thread, page 255 still, he said there is such a thing as an excess of sympathy, an excess of tolerance, and an excess of permissiveness. And there absolutely is. There is. And personally, I feel like this is how so many people get tangled up with narcissists, honestly, because there's an excess of sympathy. It's not saying don't have sympathy, you have too much sympathy. There's an excess of tolerance. Not saying don't have any tolerance at all. It's saying there's too much. There's an excess of permissiveness. Not saying don't be permissive, saying that there's too much. And when you have too much of these things, essentially you create monsters, basically. I don't know if you create the monster so much as you enable the monster to be all that it can be. And they look for people just like this, people who have excess of sympathy, excess of tolerance, excess of permissiveness. They search these people out because they are the people who are going to tolerate all of their bad behavior and not hold them accountable for it. So they're going to take it and they're not going to hold your feet to the fire for it either. You see what I mean? So the thing about narcissists or evil people in general is that they literally will they just keep testing you up to your limit, basically. And they're very, very good at pushing the boundary line right up to the line, too. They really are. Like they're good, they're good at doing things that honestly they deserve to be hit in the mouth for. I'm being serious. They deserve to be hit in the face. I'm serious. I'm not joking. They're very, very good at doing things that are wedged right in between the law and morals, if that makes any sense at all. If there's a little gap between what's legal and morality, they know how to wedge themselves right in between that little gap. To where basically what I'm saying is the only answer is to hit you in your face. But see, we try to be the better person, so we don't do it. And therefore they grow in strength and power. Now, is PTE saying go out here and hit narcissists in the face? No. What I'm saying is they're very good at doing things that truly they deserve to be hit in the face for. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to explain a little bit. What I'm basically saying is the only true answer to some of their behavior is violence. But because we can't be violent with them, you see what I'm saying? That's what I mean by that little gap between the law and morality. Because we're not allowed to be violent with them, that's that's kind of how they get us, if that makes sense. That's why truly the best medicine for these people is no contact. And if you can get away from them, get away from them. And as soon as possible, don't let them put roots down because they're so talented at wedging themselves right into that gap where they know they're supposed to be hit in the face, but they know if you do it, you're going to go to jail. You see what I'm saying? I just saw, chat says, I call narcs perpetual line steppers. Exactly. They're so good at it. They're very good at towing that line and walking that line. They know they need to be hit in the face. They know they do. They know, but they also know the boundary lines and they know how to make it to where if you do, you're going to jail. That's why you got to stay away from these people, man. You really do. But, back to this particular quote, we have to be so careful with this, you guys. And I know a lot of people really struggle with the whole nice thing. Like they want to be nice, they want to be kind, they want to be known as kind, they want to leave a legacy of kindness. And that is not a bad thing. It's really not. But like I said many, many videos ago, you can be kind with boundaries. You can be sweet with boundaries. You really can. You can. And truly, first of all, think about it like this. The person who makes you have to put up boundaries is already someone who violates boundaries. Think about it. Like, think about how many people in your life you've never had to establish boundaries with because they wouldn't even dream of coming close to crossing them. Or if they do cross one of your boundaries, it's a sincere mistake. And if you bring it to their attention, they feel horrible about it. Like they can't believe they accidentally violated you in that way and they never do it again, ever. They apologize for it and they literally never do it again because they didn't mean to. It was an accident, which can happen. We can accidentally violate each other's boundaries. But there are people who the reason you had to put your boundaries up in the first place is because they were crossing them. You understand? So it's almost like you had to put them up so they could see them. Like, hey, oh, you don't see that fence there, do you? I see you don't see that fence. So here's a fence. I'm going to tie a little orange flag to it so you can see it. Oh, don't you try to wedge yourself between those bars. I see you trying to wedge yourself between those bars. I see you. Get back. But, most snarks are just going to try to hop the fence. And that's why you got to get away from them, y'all, because it's like, really think about that. Like what else is left when someone crosses your boundary, accidentally or not, you identify that boundary and let them know what they did, and then they just continue to cross it. Like, what's next? You're going to keep using words? You see what I mean? Like, you should keep people in your life for whom you only have to use words with. If we could take away anything from this series, anything from this channel at all, keep people in your life who you only have to use words with. You don't have to do actions. You don't have to be passive aggressive. You don't have to drop hints and signs and whatever. You don't have to send a message. You don't have to post a meme to try to get them to understand who you are. I'm the type of person who blah, 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 blah. But if you do this, blah, 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 stop. Just stop. You should only keep people in your life who words work with. And if they don't, they got to go. If unless they're children and they don't fully understand words yet. But adults, if I can't use simple sentences on you, that's it. Like our relationship goes no further because I don't have energy or time to constantly be maneuvering and positioning myself against your foolishness. That's a lot of work. It takes up a lot of mental energy, and I don't have time for it. So either you understand language or you don't. Period. So make that your New Year's resolution. Get rid of everybody in your life who words don't work on. Okay? All right, let's move on. So I think this is very, very important when it comes to this whole judging conversation. This is on page 255. 256. It says, we should judge ourselves before we judge others. Not that we shouldn't judge at all. So what he was basically referencing there was the biblical scripture of judge not. Well, this is not King James version, but he wrote it in the book, judge not that ye be not judged. The way I know it is, judge not lest ye be judged first, right? And the way people have taken that and interpreted that over the years is don't judge people or you're going to get judged. That's how a lot of people understand judge not lest ye be judged first. It's actually not really what it means. Judge not lest ye be judged first. I hear how people interpret it that way, but what he's basically saying is before you judge other people, you need to take an assessment of yourself. Take an assessment of yourself. You see what I mean? I think an easy one to reach for is like health and physical fitness. So let's say somebody was out of shape for many years or maybe even their whole life. And then they took an assessment of themselves and decided they wanted to get healthy and get in shape. And they turned around and did that. Maybe it took them a year to go from, who they were to who they are today. So now they can actually approach people who are unhealthy and out of shape and have that conversation with them, not in a not in a naggy, annoying way, just walking up to out of shape people and being like, look, fatty, I used to be fat like you and now I'm not anymore. Get in shape. I don't think that's what this means. I think this means that for you to sincerely be able to assess someone else's physical fitness, you need to assess your own. You see what I mean? You need to take a look in the mirror, basically, before we judge other people. In other words, another way to put this is you have no room to talk, basically. You have no room to talk because you either have never been through it or you haven't even fixed it yourself. So there's nothing worse than someone criticizing you for the very same thing that they do or are doing. It's like you have to fix yourself first. Then once you fix yourself, yeah, you're in a position to judge. You're in a position to assess. So, you know what I mean? Um, and obviously this like anything else can get carried away with and, overdone, but I do understand the overall point. Like, for example, you guys know that in general, like I've gotten better, but I really am pretty strict about like spelling, grammar, things of that nature, punctuation. But why though? Because I judge my own. Like when I make a typo on these slides, it's weird how you don't see it when you're making them, but when you're presenting, you're like, oh, typo. So I judge myself, I assess myself. So I absolutely assess others. If I don't, who will? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I've let it go. I've let it go. Language is dead. And in about, I would say 20 or 30 years, people who can actually read, write, and spell will probably be able to make a lot of money. Copywriters, because basically the skill will be so far gone and so lost that anyone who can form a functional sentence will be paid very well. But we're like 20 or 30 years out from that, though. About 20 or 30. But do you see my point, though? Like I make errors, but I actually go out of my way to make sure I don't make them because I judge myself constantly in that regard. So you better believe I'm judging. Not in the live chat though. I don't judge the live chat. I don't judge the live chat, so y'all don't be scared to write things, okay? And there's a lot of people in the live chat who English is not their first language, and I'm aware of that, so I don't want y'all to be scared. But I need y'all to get the there, and theirs right though. Come on now. We can do that. We can do that together. There, and there. We can do that. All right, moving on. Page 256. Recognizing the potential for evil in moral judgments, he, meaning Jesus, instructed us not to always avoid making them, but to purify ourselves before doing so, which is where the evil fail. It is the self-criticism they avoid. Man, I know one of these episodes, we talked about this a lot, and that's probably one of the more critical episodes. I mean, all of them, the whole book is incredible, but it's this lack of self-reflection, this lack of self-criticism that makes them evil, you guys. That's what he's saying. The total unwillingness to assess the self is what makes them evil, ultimately. They just simply refuse. They refuse to do any self assessment. So if they refuse to do self assessment, then you know that when you come through with a critique, oh, that's it. That's it for you. You're done for after that. So, because they don't even assess themselves and they avoid and flee from all criticism, it's like they are so afraid to be better. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's the weirdest thing I can imagine, you guys. They are so afraid to be better than they are today. And honestly, I think that's the day that you become old. I really do. I think you become old the day you no longer wish to be better. I do. And that means then that people can become old at age 20, people can be old at age 30, 40, 50, and onward. Absolutely. The chat says Socrates once said that an unexamined life is not worth living. It's really not. Like, what are you doing? You're just waking up and just existing every day like a frog. Even the frog has more purpose. Like, but this here, I'm telling you, this is what it is, you guys. Like, this, like, okay, I'm just trying to give you the story for comparison. Like, the things that I want to improve upon and do and accomplish and achieve are so numerous that I know I won't achieve them all in this lifetime unless unless they give us a vaccine for extended life. Uh I won't be achieving them in this particular lifetime, or unless, I don't know, suddenly somehow I'm able to convert 24 hours into 48, like flip it, flip 24 hours into 48. But anyway, or get my sleep cycle together. When one of those three things happens, I'll be able to achieve a lot of these things. But my point is, there's always something I'm reaching for. And it's not always like super big stuff. Like, one of my dreams is a basement with storage for days. Like, I have it completely mapped out in my head. Like, there's this running, I guess you could call it not really a shelf. It's like a tabletop surface, but it runs all along the edge of the main part of the basement. But under it, under every single one of the tabletop surfaces, are cabinets, some of which pull out, some of which are just doors. Oh my God. And the tabletop surfaces are white, like a glossy white color. And the cabinets are white too. But anyway, my point is, to me, that's an improvement. Like, the things I can do with that storage, you know what I mean? Like, I'm always thinking about some project to improve my life. You know what I mean? And that's probably why I don't feel old. Well, I'm not old, but I don't feel my age because I haven't stopped trying to be better. The day you stop trying to be better is the day you become old, honey. It's like your brain is like, well, I guess that's that. Time to shut down. Time to close up shop. But yeah, absolutely. The chat says if you're not growing, you're dying. Maybe slowly, but exactly. Absolutely. Like, when your cells stop, what is it, dividing, cell division? When your cells stop dividing, you die, basically. And I'd like to think that as you learn things, your brain cells are like dividing and growing. You know what I mean? So when you choose to stop, it's almost like your brain has nothing else to do. Like, your brain stem can keep you alive. So why should it use all this gray matter for nothing? Okay? But this is what it is. It's the self-criticism that they avoid. And that's really what makes them such terrible people in general. Like, you can't tell them anything. And then a lot of what they do absolutely sucks. A lot of the things that they do sucks. Be that if they're putting on an event, if they're creating something, like, a lot of the things they do suck because they don't analyze it. Like, they just make it and call it good. And it's good because they made it. You understand? That's why it's good. It's not good because it's actually good. It's good because they made it, period. And won't even look at it to see if it could be better to make it even better. Because then that means they didn't do it good the first time. And the last thing they want to be is not perfect and not good all the time. It's exhausting. Just thinking about it is exhausting, dealing with these people, because they're so sensitive that you can set them off with anything, absolutely anything. you can set them off with. I'll give you a perfect example, and it's kind of weird, but it's perfect because Thanksgiving just passed, right? And I wonder if any of you have actually ever experienced this. So picture one of these super sensitive, evil people who can't take self criticism. So therefore, they never criticize themselves either. Excuse me, they can't take criticism. So therefore, they never criticize themselves. And it's Thanksgiving and they're cooking dinner, right? And they invite you and your spouse or whomever over, your kids, whatever. You get there and you were raised to offer help when someone is preparing food for you. You were raised to go in, you say hello, you greet everybody, and then you approach the hostess or the host and say, is there anything I can do to help? Can I help you out? Can I do this? Can I help, basically? Because preparing food is a lot of work. Now, most people, healthy, normal, balanced people are going to do one or two things. They will either say, no, you make yourself at home, you get comfortable, I got it, but thank you for the offer. Or they'll say, yes, sure. Yeah, wash your hands, put on an apron, let's go. You know what I mean? So they will either politely decline or they will accept your help, one or the other. The disordered person is now offended. And I'm going to challenge the chat. The disordered person is now offended that you asked to help them in the kitchen. Why? Why? I'm going to go on mute until I see the answer. And again, the scenario is it's Thanksgiving dinner. You've been invited over. You get there. You were raised to always extend your help. You offer help to the host or hostess who's disordered, and now they're offended. Why? Why? I'll wait. All right. Criticism of what? It says because they take an offer of help as a criticism. Criticism of what? Y'all are close. That's a pretty good answer. It says they don't need help from a simpleton. They can do it all. That is one aspect of it. Oh, y'all are so close. So close. I'm going to give it away. This one is the closest. It says they think you are judging their ability to handle things, or perhaps they think they look a hot mess. Y'all are so close. Close. So you're all super close. So I'll tell you what I was thinking. And none of you are wrong, by the way. You're not wrong. But basically, they think that you think they can't cook, basically. They think that you think they can't cook. So when you walk in and offer help, they don't filter that through this person is just trying not to feel like a louse. Like, wow, I'm coming to this person's house. They're doing all this work by themselves, and I'm going to eat the fruit of their labor. I can at least go offer to take something out of the oven for them. You know what I mean? But the disordered person has now interpreted that as, oh, what, you think you're a better cook than me? Oh, you think I can't cook? You think you see what I mean? Like they're completely insane. Completely nuts, okay? Like that's it. That's how it is. I'm telling you. Like, wow. And that's what I mean by you can offend you can offend these people without trying, man. Like you're in the presence of these people. If you think things went well, but you find out later that you offended this person and that person, it's like, how? What did I say? But it's true, man. It's totally true. I'm telling you the truth. And see, how do you plan for that? Like, how would you know to walk in and not offer help because in your mind that would be rude. You know what I mean? It's rude to not, in your mind. I'm just saying, some people, this is just how some people were raised. Some people will walk in and sit on the couch and wait to be served, but some people were raised to always offer help. So how would you know not to do that? Because you're going to set off the insecure hostess. Absolutely. Chat says you once called this phenomenon the accidental exorcist. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like you can say one thing and what they walk away hearing, really it should make you uncomfortable because it makes you wonder, like are they okay? Like, are you okay? To where that's the interpretation you walked away with from that interaction. You see what I mean? So anyway, I'm telling y'all, it's deep. These people, and that's the reason why, like, they're already, as they're cooking dinner, they're paranoid that they're going to be criticized for it, when really everyone is just hungry and wants to eat. You know what I mean? All right, let's move on. So it says, and this is going to be on page 256 as well. Sorry, 261. I'm looking at two different screens, so it's a little delayed. It says the more closely we rub shoulders with or against evil, the more likely it is we will become evil ourselves. So this is a theory of his. I don't know if I necessarily believe this. I really don't know, you guys, because the way I look at it is like this. We've all been exposed to these disordered individuals for a while, some of you in very extended exposures. And I mean, I know they say that a lot of times people who deal with narcissists either become narcissists themselves or become narcissistic in their dealing with the narc. But I don't know, I struggle with this one. And the reason is because I feel like if they could convert everyone that easily, we really wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, if exposure to evil or extended exposure makes one evil, then I feel like we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. We would just accept this as a way of life. It's the fact that we don't accept it that makes me wrestle with this particular theory, but this is what he believes. Now, here's what I think. Here's what I think actually happens. I think that if you spend an extended time with evil, I think what happens is you learn to tolerate evil basically. And therefore, like, you're more permissive of smaller evils, if that makes sense. So this happens a lot in the corporate atmosphere. So the people who ultimately become culted and brought into the corporate cult, what has happened is they've looked the other way so many times that they basically have become one of them. So you'll hear them say things like, well, yeah, I know it's wrong, but I mean, what are we going to do? Oh, yeah, I know it's wrong, but, you know, I mean, I got to pay my bills. Oh, yeah, I know it's wrong, but it's only for a little while and then they'll stop. You know what I mean? Like, they learn to start making excuses for them and justifying all the bad behavior, which is in and of itself evil. Like, you see what's happening, you know what's happening, and yet you don't do anything. So, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. Sorry to any real estate agents in the chat, but y'all see these housing prices going through the roof. You do. You see that. And you know that it's becoming less and less affordable for the average American to purchase a home in this country. You see it firsthand. And yet, I don't see any realtors out there advocating, speaking up. I'm not saying there aren't any. I'm saying I don't see any realtors really speaking out against the real estate industry. Why? Because it lines their pockets. It makes them more rich, more wealthy. If they can get somebody to buy that expensive house, well, they just got a nice commission. So this person who may not have started off as evil has slowly become evil by co-signing daily to the industry. Do you see what I mean? So As they see the price gouging happening, as they see these families or these single people coming in in earnest trying to purchase a home, having worked so hard, but they also see their peers arbitrarily jacking up the price on a home, just raising it for no reason. Just it was 150,000 today, 162,000 tomorrow. Why? For what reason? So what I'm saying is this person who may not have started off as evil sees what is happening and does nothing to stop it. Doesn't speak out against it, doesn't try to develop any programs to help people. They just latch onto it and go right along with the program. That's why I'm really disappointed in my generation in particular, because I really thought the millennials were going to take the world by storm. I really did. And what happened was, as soon as the millennials got a little bit of money, they turned into their parents, who by and large are the boomers. So they are literally baby boomers, your little boomers, your mini booms, your baby booms. And it's sad. It's like, what happened to your fight? Oh, I know. You got comfortable and cozy and you stopped caring. And you became one of them and you co-signed with evil. And as long as you're okay, you'll never speak up against it, you know. And the way a lot of people look at it is, well, I only have 10 more years and then I retire. So there's nothing I can do in 10 years. Yeah, but you've been there for 30. So in those 30 years, you didn't bother to try to make a difference. And sometimes the only way you can really make a difference is by walking away, by leaving. That's the only way you can make a difference sometimes. Sometimes you won't be able to get any laws passed, but simply walking away from scenarios like that makes a difference, because it's like, well, at least you won't be able to accomplish your evil goals using me. And that's kind of how you have to look at it. Like, you might continue to be evil and you might carry on with your evil, but I'm not going to let you use me to accomplish your evil goals. I'm not. So, you see what I'm saying? And that's how you have to look at it. If I can't make any tangible changes or differences, then let me at least not be a tool or a vessel for evil. Let's make that another resolution for 2022. Let's try not to be tools and vessels for evil. Okay? Let's work really, really hard to allow ourselves to be used for good. Okay? All right, let's move on. On a similar thread, it says to be more against the devil than for God is exceedingly dangerous. Okay. So this is on page 262. And again, it's on that thread of him being worried that people who, are trying to analyze, study, and assess evil can get carried away with it, basically, to where they're very against the devil, but they really don't have a plan for God, basically. It's like, okay, you defeated the devil. Now what? Um, I don't know. It's like, I know. You never thought about God. All you thought about was overcoming the devil, but you never thought about, what God wants or what God needs. So you beat the devil. Congratulations. Now what? You never thought about the now what, you see? So basically, don't become the devil in your chase while you're chasing him, basically, type of situation. All right. So, like, in other words, remember what your real goal is. Yes, you want to defeat the devil, but your real goal is to establish God and to bring down righteous principles. That's what you're really trying to do. You want the devil gone so God can live and thrive in humanity. That's what we want. It's not only about defeating the devil, it's also about establishing godly principles. You see? All right. So let's move on. So this is on page 263. It says the major threats to our survival no longer stem from nature without, but from our own human nature within. So, in other words, the major threats to our survival are no longer coming from the outside world or nature per se. I mean, they still kind of are, but but from our own human nature within. In other words, we have officially become our own worst enemies. Whereas our worst enemies in the past were the elements, trying to stay alive in heat, rain, snowstorms, ice, trying to find food, trying to fight off wild animals, trying to fight off other warring tribes who don't want you on their land. You know what I mean? That was the first threat. But now that that threat has, for the most part, been eliminated, now the biggest threat is human nature itself, which is very interesting. It really makes you wonder about the human being. It really does. Like, so you only act right when you are under threat, basically. Like, what a weird design. So if it's if it's fearing for its life on an hourly basis, it can be a little bit nicer. But once it's comfortable, it turns evil. Why? Why is that? So, and it's true if you really think about it, like when you walk outside, well, I don't know, some of you might actually live near like wild animals and stuff, like bears and, wild cats like cougars and things like that. But when you walk outside in general, are you more afraid of a wild animal or another human being? So, it's not that wild animals aren't a threat, but in general, like if you're walking down a city street, are you afraid a bear is going to pop out? Or are you afraid a human being is going to pop out? So, our own human nature has become the problem now. And they're still trying to figure out basically how to convince people to be good. And I think it's something that they're going to be trying to figure out for a very, very long time. How do you convince people to choose good over evil? How do you convince people to do that, even when they can see the destructive effects of an evil lifestyle? They choose it anyway. So, how do you get people to choose differently? You see what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't know. And at least here in America, we do live quite comfortably. Yeah, there are some areas that are still underdeveloped, I guess you could say. But I mean, I can order food from my cell phone right now. That's very first world. You know what I mean? So, but this is also what I mean, you guys, when I say that the reason I think a lot of rich people are not well mentally is because they have removed all external threats. So the only threat left is the threat in their own mind, meaning they're not worried about their housing from now until the end of time or for however long they live. They're not worried about housing. They're so not worried about food that they can pay someone to come cook their meals for them every day, every week. You know what I mean? And that's like a non expense, like it's practically free. They're so rich, right? So they're not worried about food. They're not worried about their careers or money, period. Um, they're not worried about their health to the extent they don't come down with something that can't be treated. So all external threats have been removed. So all that's left is what's in your brain, basically. And the issues that can't be resolved with money. That's all that's left. And I think that's why they're so crazy, because they're wrestling with issues that money can't solve. Like if you have a people problem, like there are people you can't even pay them to act right. You really can't. Or sometimes it's not even about acting right. You can't pay them to be healed. Like there's no amount of money that can heal the person that you're having an issue out of. So what do you do then? You see what I mean? I think that's why they're crazy. because their money can't fix the problem when normally their money can fix pretty much any problem that they have. So it's just a theory. Let's move on. All right. So this is something that has come out again, and I just think it's so funny. This is on page 264. It says, real evil is gloomy, monotonous, barren, and boring, honey. They are so boring. So boring. Evil people truly are so boring. And one of the main reasons is because they really don't have anything else on their mind other than being evil. Remember, they're really not reaching towards growth and excellence, maturity, learning new things. That's not their thing. And that tends to be why they're so boring. The day that you stop wanting to be better is the day that you get old. Or perhaps it's just the day that you die and your body is just still, your body's alive, but your brain is dead, which perfectly fits this group. And that's probably why they are gloomy, monotonous, barren, and boring. The brain is dead. The body's alive, but their brain is dead. So they're just basically walking around, just waiting to check out of here. You know what I mean? And then when you try to spark something in there, they get mad. When you try to spark a new thought, they get mad. And I don't know if that's because it's like trying to get an old car to start that you know won't start, or if it's like putting gasoline into a car that has no tires. I don't know why they get mad when you try to spark something to make them, not quite as boring, but they do. They do. The chat says, is there an option for an anonymous super chat or super sticker? I don't think so. But you can always Cash App if you want to. PTE 622. And that's anonymous. I don't shout those out, but I probably should. I see other YouTubers do that. But that's the only other anonymous option. Or Patreon. All right, let's move on. So this is going to be on page 264 as well. It says, at the other end of the human spectrum from the saints lie the least free, the evil. So he was basically saying human nature is on a spectrum that goes from the saints to the evil, okay? 180 degrees away from each other. And the saints are the most free, and the evil are the least free. Like, again, they would almost be sympathetic if they weren't so damn evil. They would almost be sympathetic. Like, you would almost feel sorry for them, truly, because it's basically like a little picture a caged, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Picture a human being imprisoned by their own mind, basically. So no matter how hard they try, they can't get out of that prison. They don't have the key. It's locked forever. Maybe that's why they get mad. Oh my God, I think I just gave myself an epiphany. Maybe they get mad because they know that the door that you're trying to open is locked forever. So you come along with all your glee and all your life trying to give them some, but the door that the door that you're trying to open is locked forever. Maybe that's why they get mad. It's like visiting an inmate who got a life sentence, and you pop in there and you're all bubbly and happy and talking about what's going on out in the world and the different things that the people are up to and the exciting new thing that you learned today, and the new hobby that you took up, and you know what I mean? You're doing all that and they're just staring at you from the other side of bars like, now why would you come in here and tell me all that? It's like, oh, I just wanted to cheer you up. I just wanted to cheer you up. And they're like, do I look like I can be cheered up? Do you see the situation I'm in? Do you respect the predicament that I'm in? And I'm like, well, I see that you're in jail, but I mean, you're still alive. So, you know, like I could at least share this little bit with you. And they're like, get out of here. It's like, well, do you at least want some snacks or some commissary or something? Like, I think that's what it is. Yeah. Trying to unlock the door that is locked forever. And you coming there trying to open it is aggravating. Like, just leave. Like, just go away. Like, you're obviously not understanding the predicament that I'm in. I'm in here forever, okay? And you and all your little keys trying to open this door is just getting on my nerves. So please leave. All right. So they're not free, y'all. They are completely bound by their own ideas. Like, really think about that. They are completely bound by their own ideas. And if they would just be willing to think a different thought or be willing to think a different idea, they could start to free themselves. But they won't. They cling to them and literally create their own prison. They do. They are bound up by their own ideas. It's incredible. All right. So, this is something that we picked up on a while back. Once you have seen one evil person, you've essentially seen them all. Okay. And this is very, very true. I think we've all seen this in action. I think one thing that's been so surprising over the years as we talk about these people is how similar they all are. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a comment that will say something like, PTE, you must know my mother, or PTE, you must know my brother, or you must know fill in the blank. You must have met them before. And in many ways, I have, because if you meet one, you've kind of met them all, which kind of plays into that hive mind theory that they are all bound up together on one little string, honey. And that I think is one of the most fascinating things that science has not studied yet or has not studied adequately enough. Like, why does the brain, when they get disordered like this, why does it fail in the same way? To me, it seems that just like how human beings are different, everyone's brain should fail a little differently, but they all end up doing, acting, and being the same, even if they've never met each other. And it comes naturally. They don't have to be taught. It's like they just know how to be this particular evil archetype. And I think it is one of the most bizarre aspects of them. I really, really do. And how I know what they're going to do. Like, for example, I think, what video is that? The 5 stages of narc anger, where I forgot what stage 4 was, but stage 5 is them walking out of the room and leaving, which is pretty much a guarantee. And that's pretty much what happens when you confront a narcissist. I forgot what stage 4 is, but stage 5 is them, they're going to exit. They're going to exit the room. They're going to leave. And it's like any one of you who have dealt with a personality type like that has had that experience. You try to have the conversation with them, they get defensive, angry, and mad, and then they storm out of the room and leave. Versus like singing a song. Do you see what I mean? Which is a form of leaving, but like, why don't they all do different things? Like, how come some of them don't leave? One of them starts eating, another one starts singing, another one starts doing jumping jacks. You know what I mean? Another one starts speaking in a different language. You see what I mean? Oh my God. These bots. These bots. You bots need to start sending super chats. Remove and put you in timeout. And oh my God. Remove and block. Okay, we'll get it. We'll get there. Sorry for these bots, y'all. I don't know where they come from. I don't know where they come from, but they follow me from channel to channel, though. All right. So once you've seen one, you've seen them all. And that should make them very easy to predict. And that should enable you to maneuver very well. Because I guess we should be grateful for this, you guys. We honestly should be thankful for the fact that they all act alike. Because then that way, you know what to do next. You don't have to wonder, you don't have to guess. You can even test it out and you'll see that it's true. So once you've established this, it makes it easier for you to make your decisions and also easier to know that they don't change. Because if you dealt with one, you finally got out of that relationship or situation or whatever, and then you meet another one, you're like, man, this is starting to remind me of the former situation. Just know that it is the former situation and that no, it's not going to improve. And that yes, you probably should go ahead and get out of it right now because you've already seen it before. You've seen the whole song and dance before. They're super predictable. And for that, I'm actually grateful. I'm grateful that they're predictable. I really am. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next quote here. This is going to be on page 268. It says, those on their way to evil, when encountering this light, will be moved to change their direction. Those who hate the light will attack it. So, in other words, people who are either already evil or on their way to becoming evil, when they encounter your light, most of them will actually just go the other way. They'll avoid you. They'll avoid you. They just don't want to be they don't want to be entangled with it. They don't want to be seen by it, seen with it. They'll just go the other way. However, there are those who hate the light and they will absolutely attack it. And I put the asterisk there because I paraphrase that. So know that, okay? And it's a hard pill to swallow because your thought process is, why wouldn't anyone want to be around the light? Who wants to sit around in darkness? You would be surprised. You would be very, very surprised who wants to remain in the darkness. You would be surprised. Okay? So, some of you may have the experience where you feel like people either don't want to be around you or they avoid you, or they're either running away or attacking. And it's like, what is wrong with you people? You either take off in fear or you're on the attack. But rarely are people just comfortable and normal in the presence of the light. I guess light wouldn't be bothered by other light, would be the way I would look at it. So, very strange though. We have really, really bred a population of very strange people. Very strange. Very strange people. I'm talking about ushered in very strange human beings who interact and they just do things weird. Like it's almost like they don't know how to be human anymore. They don't know how to be human. They don't know how to interact with humans. And they all seem to have forgotten how human beings actually think. So at first, I used to think people were simply disregarding how people really think in favor of like profit or in favor of narcissism or something like that. But I think what I've come to understand is they really don't know how people think anymore because they don't even really think about how they think. So if they don't even consider how they think about things, They certainly don't consider how other people think about things. And now it's gotten to the point where their businesses often struggle, the ones who prop up businesses, because they're missing like the tiniest little thing that would make the experience so much better. But the only person who would be able to recognize that little thing is a human. A human has to notice that it's missing, and a human has to make the recommendation to put it there. So I don't know. They've bodified everybody. Like it is really, really, really bad. It's scary, actually. It's frightening. It's like it's one of my $1 million questions. How do these people survive on a day-to-day basis? How do they live? That's all I want to know. With that level of unawareness and lack of self-criticism and no growth, no development, nothing. Like, how do they live? I don't get it. I do not understand how most of these people are surviving on a day-to-day basis, okay? I really don't. All right. Now, for this one, I actually had to look this up because I did not understand the context because I'd never read the book. And I also have not seen the movie, which I believe the movie, if I'm not mistaken, is the Chronicles of Narnia. Okay. Now, where am I getting all this from? So he says in the book on page 269, when a willing victim who had committed no treachery was killed in a traitor's stead, the table would crack and death itself would start working backwards. So, kind of a weird quote, but I will break it down. So, to simplify the sentence, he's saying when a willing victim who had committed no treachery was killed instead of a traitor, the table would crack and death itself would start working backwards. So naturally, I'm like, willing victim, table, death working backwards. What is he talking about? So the context that this was in, he was basically saying evil people and narcissists and all of them have it coming to them, basically. For when you harm an innocent person or you harm someone who's done no wrong to you, the table cracks and death itself starts working backwards. So now, more about this table. There is a footnote in the book that says the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe. And this apparently was written by C.S. Lewis. So I looked it up because I was very curious because I still didn't get it. I'm like, what table, honey? And what do you mean by death working backwards? So apparently, in this novel, which I believe was adapted into the Chronicles of Narnia, one of the main characters was innocent, but he didn't want to see the guilty person die. So he took their place, basically. And so they killed him instead of the guilty person. But when they did, this table that he was laying on cracked open and death started to work backwards. Honey, look, I don't want to butcher it. All I'll say is that essentially, well, they say it's an allegory for Christ on the cross and the resurrection and everything. But the way I interpret it in the context of this book is that if you don't let things happen in their proper order, meaning you don't harm people, you're fair, you try to do right by folks, then things will happen in their proper order, meaning, yeah, we all have to die someday, but your death will come much later when it's supposed to come. But when you do things not in their proper order, things like harming an innocent person or, basically not taking accountability or whatever, the table cracks and death starts to work backwards, meaning what once was off in the future has now reversed itself and is coming to the present towards that person who caused this situation. So they need to know that. They need to know, evil people need to know that the Lord hates unjust weights and imbalances. And every time you harm, in particular, an innocent person, you basically start the death clock backwards towards yourself. So I think he put this in there to be a comfort to the reader. So the reader knows that indeed, even though you are harmed by evil, do know that when they do that, they're reversing the clock onto themselves, basically. So very, very interesting. I'll probably have to either read the book to truly understand or see the movie to make it make sense, because I've never seen Chronicles of Narnia. Okay. And in what will be our last slide for this series, you guys, and I actually went backwards a little bit. This comes up a little sooner in the chapter on page 265. I think it's a very valuable piece of information to close the series, and we will do an after show here. Know your enemy. Ultimately, and at the end of the day, it behooves us all to know our enemy. We can't pretend that evil doesn't exist. We can't pretend that evil people don't exist. Even I got caught up, and I ate my crow publicly on my channel because I was put off by his demeanor, a person's demeanor. And he even touched on that in here. He said, you can't get caught up. Hold on, I want to say it correctly. Maybe it's a little bit further back. I think he called it the mask of sanity. He basically said, don't be fooled by the mask of sanity. Here it is. It's on page 264. He said, then how is it that psychiatrists have until now failed to recognize such a distinct, rigid type, talking about evil people? And he said, it is because they have bought the pretense of respectability. They have been deceived by what Harvey M. Cleckley called the mask of sanity. And man, that pretense of respectability is something else, man. It is very off-putting. So what is respectability? Oh, they're so decent. They don't drink. They don't smoke. They don't curse. They work down at the soup kitchen. They go to church every Sunday and every Wednesday and every Thursday. They're married with kids and a house and a dog. And I'm not saying that people who have all those things are evil. What I'm saying is that's very respectable. And respectable people are respectable. You know what I mean? But the issue is, if somebody puts on that same outfit, family, kids, dog, church, volunteerism, doesn't drink, smoke, curse, doesn't do this, doesn't do that. If somebody puts on that same outfit, it can be very easy to miss them. That's the point. That is the point. So know that your enemy is very deceptive. Know that your enemy can wear many different masks, many different outfits, many different cloaks to disguise who they really are. So you have to be watchful. You really do. And don't be fooled by the mask of sanity or the pretense of respectability. Okay? Because a lot of times those are the craziest ones. They really are. Every time I lurk on Facebook, my only thought is, wow, well, all of your lives are just perfect, huh? Everyone is living a perfect life. No one has any issues, no problems. Biggest problem they had was DoorDash took their food to the wrong door, took their food to their neighbor's house. That's the biggest issue they had today. I'm like, huh. I'm like, either everyone really is living a very perfect life, or there's a lot of masks of sanity that I'm looking at. It's one or the other. Either they're all perfect, or I'm looking at a lot of pretenses of respectability, or a mixture. Maybe some of their lives are pretty close to perfect, and that's great. That's beautiful. But they got to be mixed in with something else too. And the reason I say that is because as we look at all these different news stories that we see every day of the just the things that people do to each other, the crazy, wild, out there things that people do, my thought is like, well, where do these people come from? Because when I scroll Facebook, I see people living perfect lives. So, where are all these crazy people coming from when all I see is perfection every day? You see what I mean? So, you have to know your enemy. Know your enemy. Read books like this, People of the Lie, and other books. Examine patterns, watch for patterns. You know what I mean? And I really regret that I don't know where I heard this, but shout out to the person who wrote it or said it. I might have read this somewhere, but someone I think wrote somewhere, if a person can hurt you a little bit, they can hurt you a lot. And ever since I read that, it really stuck with me because it's so true. If you don't know anything else, if you can't determine if a person is evil or not, or you're not sure, know this. Know that if a person can hurt you a little bit, they can hurt you a lot. And that's why it's very important to know your enemy, okay? And with that, you guys, can you believe it? People of the Lie is done. We are done, done, done. We are done with this book. We are done with this book. This book has been worrying my spirit for the past year and a half. But I was so determined to finish this. So determined. And we did it, you guys. We did it. And we did it before 2021 was over. We got in by the skin of our teeth, but a win is a win, right? 2021, it still is, at least here in the States. So I count that as a win. Yes, we are all done. Can you believe it? It took me over a year to finish this book. I can't believe that. That's so crazy. So I'll be working on a different methodology for reviewing these books with you guys going forward. But I absolutely enjoyed it. We're not done. I am going to do an after show. I absolutely enjoyed this book. Thank you to those of you who recommended the book to me. I'm so glad that I took your advice and picked it up and read it. Wow, I put the date in the book from when I bought it. I bought it June 25th of 2020. Took me a year and a half to finish this book. Shameful, but we did it though. Oof, oofa. I'm so proud of myself. Finishing projects is actually kind of hard for me. So when I do finish them, I'm so proud of myself, y'all. It's like a huge weight off my chest. Huge weight. So let's do this. Thank you all for attending. Those of you who are sticking around for the after show, I'm going to take a little brief break and I will go through your comments. And then that will conclude the People of the Lie review series, okay? So bear with me as we go to break, and I'll be back. Hair is anything like mine. It is thick, kinky, curly, and defiant. It can also be prone to tangles, making wash days very difficult. I was just about to cut it all off when I discovered Cosmology's products. Their styling tools are like nothing I've ever found anywhere. They are sturdy, strong, and made with one mold, meaning no individual parts. This helps the hair slip through the tool, making detangling a breeze. My hair fights, and Cosmology's tools fight back. My personal favorite are the paddle comb and the Curls Plus comb. Check out their range of products today using the link in the description box below, and use the discount code PTE at checkout for 10% off of your purchase. Cosmology's tools changed my life and hair routine. I hope they do the same for you. To expand your book collection but not sure where to start? With everything going on this past year, why not get away in the prophetic love story of Jazzman, written by V. Prophetess Hazlitt. Based on the lovely setting of Rhinebeck, New York, Jazzman is a love story that proves lasting love still exists. Pick up your paperback paperback or Kindle copy today. Link in the description box below. All right, everybody, I am back. Thanks for those of you who are sticking around for the after show. I am just going to scroll, I believe, all the way to the top because they let us do that now, and go through some of your comments, just hang out a little bit and celebrate the fact that we actually finished this book. I just can't believe it. Can't believe it. Oh, let me see. I think I have church announcements. Hold on. So, I think I'm going to take the first week off of January. So there's my first church announcement, and that's from both channels too. So I believe that would be January 1st. Let me look at a calendar here. So Saturday, January 1st through Saturday, January 8th. Okay. My intent is not to post on either channel. So, and I say that because every time I do this, something like huge happens and I have no choice but to go live. But I just need to take a week off. It's been a long year. I've been working very, very hard this year. So it may not seem like it for this channel, but on my other channel, I've been working very hard. So I just need to decompress and just take a little break so we can get back on it and hit the ground running for 2022, because I don't expect 2022 to be any less intense. Okay. So that's my plan. So you probably won't hear from me. I'll be on tomorrow. So I think I'm going to do an update show on my other channel tomorrow. And then the news break for this one, I want to try to do the news break earlier, probably like around 4 or 5, because it's New Year's Eve. And I know y'all want to go out and party and spread the Omicron. So I'll do the news break a little early, so everyone can go do that. And I think that's all the church announcements. Yeah, I think so. So welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the portion of the show where I just go through your comments and just pull out some really, really good ones. Of course, they're all great, but just like to highlight some good thought provoking comments and hang out and just crack jokes and things of that nature. Oh, this is good. It says, since you're waiting a year for the next book review, take suggestions during the hiatus and write notes as you read through the book. It will help create the direction of the content and it will keep content consistent. I think that's a good idea because People of the Lie really was kind of a surprise to me. So it was like every page, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my gosh. So yeah, I think what else I need to do is I think I actually need to read the book all the way through first and then do the review, if that makes sense. So really, People of the Lie, I would read a little bit, then create the show, read a little bit, create the show. So kind of doing it as I went. I think I need to read the book first, all the way through, then create the content. I think that actually might help. Because then it's like my brain will like synthesize it. You know what I mean? Yeah, make sure y'all get your book requests in for any book you want me to do next. And feel free to mail me a book. I don't think my P.O. box is in the description, but it's on the bottom of the mailing list email you get. Y'all can mail me books if you want. I don't care if they're used. You can mail me used books too. I prefer new, but I'll take a good used book as long as it has all its pages. Says, wow, thank you for all your work. I'm just barely getting around to listening to 1984 and really enjoying it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, how many of you all have had a chance to chunk up 1984, listen to it in bits and pieces? Really gets good after he gets captured. That's when, I mean, the whole thing is really thought provoking. I'm still working on the debrief for that. But I think the true content of that book comes out after he gets captured. But there's so much, God, there's so much to pick apart in that book. Oh my gosh. But we will not be doing it this way. That show, when we finally do the debrief, I'm literally not even going to have slides. I just have my notes and I'm just going to be talking through it because I intend to cover that in one show, not a year and a half long. Let's see. Hmm. Oh, yeah, tons. Too much cognitive dissonance around. Absolutely. Which is something, it's so funny. I remember, I think we first started hearing this either like in senior high school, but definitely in the early years of college, the whole cognitive dissonance thing. And it was one of those things that you understand in concept only until you finally get to see it in person. And it literally is a person being fully aware of a conflicting idea, but just somehow magically walking away from it in their brain and like resolving two totally conflicting ideas in their brain. Mm. This says the issue is I find most people sketchy. The question is how much do you tolerate? What level? See, for me, I can only answer for me. I have very, very low tolerance for it. I have borderline zero tolerance. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but my whole thing is I've observed enough people get worse over time to where I just shut it down immediately. Like as soon as they sketch out on me, like as soon as they show me weirdness, that's it for the most part. But here's the crazy part though, like some of what I would consider to be like the quote unquote craziest people, like all crazy people are not necessarily evil, if that makes sense. So like I know you've had a friend where you're like, he or she is so crazy, but you mean it in kind of an endearing way, but they really are like crazy. They're crazy, but they're not evil. There's not like a malicious bone in their body versus the person who, for example, like I said, you offer to help with Thanksgiving dinner because you're just trying to be polite and they took total offense to that, see, you're crazy for real. And when I see that kind of stuff, the way my mind processes it is like, well, this relationship is not going to be a lot of fun, or well, this friendship is not going to be a lot of fun, because now I have to think about everything I say that's coming from a genuine and sincere place, and wonder about how it's going to be interpreted by this person. And I always have to speak with a filter, and I always have to go home and then replay the whole night going, God, I hope they didn't take that the wrong way. Ooh, when I said that, I wonder if they knew what I actually meant when I said that. Like, who wants to live like that? Most people are sketchy too, by the way. There's nothing wrong with feeling like that. Like, most people are in desperate need in one way or another, and that desperation drives everything. And the needs can be varied and diverse. It says, wow, that used to be me, incredibly naive. Narc parents raise you to not question others. So I had to unlearn that bad habit. Absolutely. Absolutely. Man. And that's a hard habit to break out of too. But somehow, like, I've always challenged, even when I was little, I would challenge things that didn't seem just to me. So I've always been like this. But I used to feel bad about it though. So I would do it, but I would feel bad about it, because in my mind, I'm like, great. Now I've like highlighted myself in a way that I didn't want to be highlighted. Like, I just wanted to blend in. I didn't want to be noticed, didn't want to be thought of in any way but positively. But then I realized that no matter what you do, they're going to think evil thoughts toward you. Now, that took a long time for me to realize. Like, it took until adulthood for me to realize that you can't behave your way into their kindness. You can't. They're evil. So let me give you something to actually hate. Let me give you something to be mad about, which is this no. Catch this no. Catch this boundary. You mad? Great. Let me build it higher. You see what I mean? Like, I lost the fear of them, really. Lost the fear of their upset, and lost the fear or concern of their, you know, outrage at my audacity to advocate for my rights. Now I enjoy it. Now it's fun. Let's see. Yep. So this is when we were talking about the excess permissiveness, excess tolerance, excess sensitivity, I think it said. And says all that excess is what the narcs love. Absolutely. And I'm convinced that they have, whether they know it or not, they have an internal script that they run on everybody that basically starts small and escalates higher. So if it's a dating situation, for example, they have the small thing that they do first. And I believe that small thing that they do first is they ghost you on purpose. So either they don't return a text or they don't return a phone call after having returned them all, or, you know what I mean? And they're doing it to see, A, are you going to say anything at all? Like, are you going to mention it at all? B, are you going to make a big deal about it? And C, like, will you cut it off right there, or will you allow the relationship to continue? And what typically happens is most people will just write that off, like, oh, they got busy, oh, this, oh, that, you know. And that's exactly what they wanted to see. They just wanted to see, like, I think the number one thing they want to see above all else is they want to see if you'll say anything. Will you say anything? I don't think they're really concerned with what you do next. I think the biggest thing is they want to see, will you say anything about it? And when you don't, when you don't, I think one of two things happens. Either they're like, yes, awesome, perfect. And then they kind of escalate it to the next, whatever the next step is in their little script. They go on to the next thing to just try to see how much they can get away with that you won't say anything about. It's either that or they're like, wow, she really doesn't care about me at all. Because keep in mind, one of the things that they hate, among other things, they hate to be ignored. Because I think to them, that is death. I think to them, to be ignored is death. It's a form of death. So when you have absolutely no reaction to their little test, again, either they're excited because they think, great, now I can move on to the next thing, the next level up, or they're like, wow, she really doesn't care about me at all. Like she really does not care. Like um so I'm not sure which they think. I'm looking at two screens. So the other chat says, or they find that you cannot be victimized. Exactly. What a perfect way of putting it. They discover you can't be victimized. So it's almost like everything they do doesn't phase you. Like, so they don't text back or they don't call back or whatever. You're just inclined to be like, all right, guess they don't want to talk. And you move on with your life. See, that's not what they want. That wasn't the goal. You weren't supposed to be like, all right, guess they don't want to talk anymore and move on with you. You weren't supposed to do that. That wasn't the plan. Like, you were absolutely not supposed to be okay with it and just kind of dismiss them, basically. You were supposed to feed into the overall cycle of it all. The question, hey, where are you? You okay? I hadn't heard back. I was just getting a little worried. Hey, what that you're supposed to feed in. So when you basically don't notice, on top of that, keep in mind they think that they're very good at what they do. So when you don't notice what they did, it's almost like you've disassembled their whole existence. You know what I mean? Like they don't know who they are anymore when they're not effective at bothering people. You see what I mean? Which honestly, y'all, I think that's why a lot of narcissists bother me, honestly. Because truly, I think they can see I just don't care. I don't. Like all your little song and dance, this little dog and pony show that you're putting on, honey, I don't care. Like they can see that my heart, mind, and soul are somewhere else. And it's like they want a piece of that with them, basically. So they're bugging me, and they can see that the only thing on my mind is, I wonder if I took the chicken out of the freezer or if I left that chicken in the freezer. I think I left that chicken in the freezer. Damn. Oh man, when I get home, I gotta wait a couple hours for it to defrost, but it's gonna be good. I'm gonna pull up that recipe. By the way, I saw that one of you made that stuffed shells recipe. Is it not delicious? I made it again too. Had it last night actually. Oh my god, it's so good. Ridiculous. Olive Garden who? Um, but yeah, like they can see that my mind is a million miles away and completely unfocused on them. Like, and I don't mean in a rude way, y'all. What I mean is like, to say it in a Southern way, they can see that I'm not studying them, honey. They can see that. And I really have never known how to spell studying. Never. I'm not studying them. Like, I'm not thinking about them, basically. Like, it's so hard to explain though, because like in person, I'm very polite, you guys. I'm polite to people. I give people attention. Like when people are talking, I look at them. Like when they're talking, they got my attention. All right, you're speaking, so I'm listening. And then when they stop talking, I actually say something back that indicates that I was listening. I'm not saying that I'm rude in person. I'm not a rude person in general. What I'm saying is they can tell that I'm not impressed with them, basically. They can tell that, like, they're going to waste a lot of energy on me, basically. Does that make sense? I hope so. And they do. Like, they spend an excessive amount of time basically trying to get a rise out of me. I'm giving therapy to myself right now. They spend an excessive amount of time just trying to get me to care. And typically, what they get in response is fire. Like, you kept poking the bear, you kept poking the bear, you kept poking the bear. Now here's this heat. Deal with it. And I think it makes them happy to finally get that. That's what they wanted. They wanted some sort of reaction to know that they exist. You know what I mean? But even still, even when they are able to pull the fire out of me, I think they still know at the end of the day that I simply just don't care. Now I care even less. So the little bit of care I did have is now gone. And now any hope for any friendship we had or relationship or whatever is completely obliterated. So what I'm saying is I didn't care before, but hope for something wasn't obliterated. I just didn't care. Now any hope for anything you were hoping for is completely DOA. There's nothing that's ever going to come out of this association between the two of us now. So and I guess what I'm saying is they get a short-term reward, but they lose what they ultimately wanted long term, which was that connection with you. So in the short term, they get the fire, the rage, the heat, whatever it is, but they absolutely burn the bridge. So now, at least I would talk to you before. Now I won't even talk to you. I cannot wait to listen to this playback. This is therapeutic for me, y'all. I'm answering a lot of my own questions right now. Okay. All right. Let me keep going through these comments. Welcome, everyone in the chat, by the way. Happy almost New Year's Eve. And if I don't talk to you again until next year, oh no, I'll be on for the news break. Never mind. Never mind. Can I just take a moment to make a public service announcement to say, please be good to December babies, all December babies, including those born like on the 1st and 2nd. And like I hear stories about people getting shafted who were born like on the 14th. I'm like, that is so messed up. Like, I understand why people, well, I'll never understand why people cheat me out of my birthday gifts. I think it's very unfair, but I kind of get it because I actually am kind of super close. But there's people who cheat December babies who were born like on the 10th. That's not fair, y'all. Don't do December babies like that. Treat your December babies well, even if they were born on Christmas Day. Like, find a way to split the day. In the morning, you celebrate the birthday, and in the afternoon, you do Christmas, or vice versa. But this has been a public service announcement to remind you to treat your December babies well. Our birthdays matter too. December birthdays matter. Okay? All right. All right. Still scrolling your comments. Exactly. It says the truth of the matter is, if you try to talk about it, even those who understand turn away. Did not want to discuss anything sensitive, so to speak. What kind of progress can we expect? Approximately none. And I think this was verified in an article we did probably a year or two ago. It was an installment of the Advice from the Experts series. And basically, that person said that it would take almost 10 years of consistent therapy to make any progress with a narcissist, meaning basically 10 years of them coming to therapy like 3 times a week. And when that author laid that out to me, that just told me, okay, then I can stop any efforts towards trying to heal these people. Not heal them, but trying to get progress, like you said, trying to make progress with them in any meaningful way. I can stop trying because a licensed medical professional said it would take about 10 years to get through to them. And that's with consistent therapy. And they're typically not willing to go. They typically get up and walk out and walk away. So no progress can be made. None. And knowing that is very freeing. It really is. Just scrolling your comments. Yeah, they like to escalate, escalate, escalate. Absolutely. They want to get you in trouble. They want you to hit them. So you can go to jail. Ooh, interesting. It says my sister is like that, always trying to make me hit first. Glad I went no contact. Right. Exactly. Like, man. And it's like, how do they learn how to do that? How do you learn how to irritate a person to the point where you really should be hit in the face, but you know that they know it's wrong to do so? And you also know that truly that's the only solution for dealing with you. So you're skilled at taking things right up to that limit and wedging it right in between the law and morality. Oh, yes, right here. It says, yep, they escalate demise, knowing full well that they are protected by authority, no respect. I guess public places are all closed and not worth going to. I didn't quite get the last line, but that first part, yeah, they escalated knowing full well that they're protected by authority. They're protected. They know the law will protect them. And when you go to try to explain why you did what you did, they know that legally the law is not going to really be going for that. They're going to be like, well, did they put their hands on you? And you're like, no. All right, ma'am. Well, you got to go to jail. It's like, you don't get it though. He needed hands put on him, or she needed hands put on her. They're like, ma'am, it's not how it works. And they know that. So self reflection is what is required. Narcs fear that process. Absolutely. And it's just so weird to me because it's like, I don't know, like, why would you want to keep making the same mistakes? Like, when they can be avoided, like when they are preventable by way of learning, you know what I mean? Like, wow. Like, I want them to put, I forgot what they're called, but they're the little things that they put on people's head to read their brain waves and stuff. What do they call nodes? I don't know. I want them to put some nodes on these people. Like, it's probably a very unethical experiment, but I think it's an experiment that needs to be done for science. I need them to put nodes on these people and then start asking them to basically criticize themselves, self reflect, because I want to see the brain wave activity that takes place when you ask them to reflect on their own behavior. I'd really like to see if, like, like if it starts to go haywire, if they start to glitch out, like, is it literally painful? Like, is it as painful as accidentally physically hurting yourself, like getting a cut or some sort of wound? Like, does it create the same pain sensations in the brain? And if so, why? Like, the question would be, what are you so afraid of? Like, if I was running that experiment and we had them in the room and they're freaking out just because we're asking them to analyze their own behavior, my question would be, what are you so afraid of? Like, what are you scared is going to happen if you discover you did something wrong? What are you afraid of? Then what happens? Like, do you die, or like, You see what I mean? That's why it's so silly to me. So, what a crazy way to live when there's so much evidence to the contrary, you know? Just scroll in your comments. Yeah, this one's good. Socrates said that an unexamined life is not worth living. It's really not. It's really not. But being unexamined, I believe, is what helps them just repeat the same day over and over and over again. Like, it must be nice to not have a memory. I know memory is great and it serves us in many different ways, but in some ways, it must be nice to not really have one because then you can't really be sad about stuff because sadness, long term sadness, requires you to remember things. So if you don't really have a memory, what are you really sad about on a day-to-day basis? You know what I mean? It's almost like they don't have one though. Or if they do have a memory, it's been powered completely off. Mm. It says mental stagnation is a new kind of brain dead. Absolutely. Hmm. That scenario I gave y'all was based on a true story about the Thanksgiving dinner. Some details have been changed to protect things, I guess you could say, but it's based on a true story. I was just like, oh my God. Seriously? She's mad about that? You got to be kidding. Mm. It's like I feel like people just want me to walk in the room and not say anything. Just don't speak. Because if I say hi, it'll be like, well, why does she say hi to me but hey to her? Does she say hey to people she likes and hi to people she doesn't like? Like literally, y'all, it's been like that since high school. It's insane. People are truly insane. Just scrolling in comments. I'm up towards the higher comments when we first started the show. Right. See, I don't know. See, it says, I've been exposed to evil people and I did not become evil myself. Like, I feel like a lot of us who don't end up evil, we're naturally repulsed by it. Like, we're naturally turned off by it. That's how we ended up going no contact in the first place. Like, you're just naturally put off in every way by it. So, I don't know. Maybe I need to read his other book. Maybe he'll explain more. Like, I understand the logic behind it, but because what he's basically saying is in the persecution of evil, people often become evil themselves, which is true. We've seen this happen throughout history. They thought they were doing God's work or thought they were doing somebody's work and ended up harming others in the name of what they thought was good. So they essentially became evil themselves to accomplish quote unquote good purposes. So I get that. Like that makes a lot of sense. I also think a very similar situation is taking place in our society currently, but I'm not going to go there on this channel. But something very similar is happening too, to where in your attempt at being good is turning you evil. It is like it's turning you evil against your fellow man. So I'll bring that up on my other channel. Say, yes, that's it. I learned to tolerate evil, making me open to being taken advantage of. That's some really good self reflection. It's that self reflection that will save your life. I'm telling you. Self reflection will save your life. Mm. Says, yes, it keeps the wounds open and unheralded. They like festering, rotting stuff. They don't like cleaning house, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Oh my gosh. I can't even tell you how true that is. Man, no, they don't. They don't like cleaning physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Like, it's just asking too much. And I think the saddest part of it all is it truly produces a wasted life. Overall, it's a wasted life where this person just lives in fear every day. And what are they scared of? Literally just scared of self criticism or criticism from someone else. That's what they live in fear of. Not danger lurking outside or anything like that. They live in fear, essentially, of exposure in a way. But exposure carries a very heavy connotation. Exposure implies that they had something to hide when they don't necessarily have something to hide, but it's almost like they just feel, I don't know, but it's such a sad, wasted life. And if you're associated with them, it's not that they can waste your life. They can waste your time, though. They can waste your time. But it's almost like the relationship between the two of you never becomes what it could have been or what it should have been because one of you just absolutely refuses to live, basically. Like it sucks. Like it's sad. It's really sad. And they would almost be sympathetic if they weren't so damn evil. Mm. So I think that's why it made it easier to find not so great partners. Then people point out, why don't you love yourself? I think I understand what you're saying here. Like, you can basically see that they don't love themselves, and that makes it easier for them to spot. Am I interpreting that correctly? I mean, that is one of the easiest ways. If you can tell that they don't care about themselves, you might as well not even start that relationship up because they're not going to care about you. They don't care about their most important vessel, which is themselves. Just scroll in your comments on this, our last installment of the People of the Lie review series. Appreciate you all. Has anyone caught every single one? Just curious if any of you have actually seen every single one. Right? Oh my God. I could do a whole show on this. It says, I thought the computer would bring out genius. Yeah, me too. I can't tell you how disappointed I am. Like, my disappointment is palpable. Okay, it's tangible. Yeah, I thought it would bring it out too. And it should have, to be honest with you, and it just completely tanked. It's so sad. It might recover, but my fear is that the people who first started building the computers have all retired now, and they did not pass the knowledge on. So they don't even know what they're missing. They wouldn't even know what feature to build because they don't even know that it used to exist. It says, PTE, I'll sponsor you for a month. If you do a show on housing and rent and millennials, let's talk about it. That sounds like a great topic for Pettynomics. I was about to make an announcement, but never mind. Don't want to put the cart before the horse. No carts before horses. All right, let's see here. Oh, this is awesome. It says, I've been working for the last year and a half trying to fight for housing legislation and affordability. Kudos to you, and let me know if I can help in any way, if I can use this platform to amplify that, because I am very, oh man, very passionate about that. The other day, I was thinking to myself, we are giving all of our wealth to the landlords, all of our wealth, all of our nation's wealth, all of our family wealth is going to landlords. And if you don't have a landlord and you have a mortgage, it's going to the bank, who essentially is a landlord. Like our wealth is being extracted from us. It's being stripped right from between our fingers, going to freaking landlords, some of whom are just sitting at home doing nothing. Nothing. But they are extracting wealth from greater society. I think one way I think one way, never mind. I had an idea, but let me flesh that idea out. I was basically going to say if everyone just stops living in houses, just go take over some spot in the woods and just build it out and say we live here now. This is our encampment or something. I don't know how we're going to what's the word? Not hack, but disrupt. That's the word I was looking for. I don't know how we're going to disrupt the housing industry. And I think about it all the time too, because the key element to disruption is that it's got to be a perfectly legal loophole that nobody thought about before. So, for example, Uber and Lyft. I mean, okay, they thought of taxis before, but no one had ever thought about ride sharing like they have. And that's why they took over and dominated. You see, they disrupted the industry to the point where some people don't even own cars anymore. They don't need to. They just call an Uber and get to where they're going. You see, they've got something else very similar. I forget the name of it, but basically, it's similar to car rental, but not exactly. Like it's an app, and you go on there and you pick the car that you want to basically borrow. You're paying to borrow it, but and then you go, you pick it up, and if you want to keep it for 3 days or 7 days or a month or whatever, they let you, and you just pay whatever your little weekly fee is. And it's relatively reasonable for what they're trying to do versus like Hertz and God, I forgot the other major rental car companies. But they put you through song and dance and want your firstborn to rent a car from them. This other one is it's very appy. It has Uber vibes, but for a car. To where basically what they're trying to do is make it to where if you don't want a car, you don't have to have one. So, with that in mind, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to disrupt the housing industry. That's got to be enterprise. Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, we're giving all our money to rent. It's sickening. Like I can't tell y'all how mad it makes me. Like it infuriates me at a soul level because it's like you have to live somewhere. Living somewhere is not a luxury. I know some might argue that it is. They might say that's a very much a first world luxury, but I tend to disagree. Like you have to be housed somewhere. It's not optional. So the fact that they can price gouge something that's not optional seems so unfair to me versus something you don't need. Like you don't need red bottom high heels. You really don't. So if you want to price gouge for red bottom high heels, go for it. You don't need those to survive. You know what I mean? But you have to live somewhere. Like it should be illegal. These arbitrary rent increases, rent going up for no reason at all, just because they felt like it. And what they'll say is, well, that's the market. But here's how the market is created. So let's say I'm charging $2,000 a month for my apartment that I'm renting, which is grossly overpriced. Then let's say for 2022, I just feel like charging $2,200. So I raise my prices. Well, the complex across the street runs the numbers and they go, hey, they're charging 22 over there and people are renting. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, we need to go up to 22. Then the apartment complex across the street goes up to 2,200. And on and on and on until everyone in the area has raised their rent by $200 just because one person did, you guys. It's the same with gas. Like I've never understood. Like if I rent, now I don't know the laws, so I'm just speaking from the viewpoint of someone who doesn't actually know the legalities of this. But if I ran a gas station, I would just undercut I would undercut the guy across the street until it didn't affect my profits. So I'm not going to undercut until I'm in the red, obviously. But if I can afford to drop my gas price by 10 cents and it doesn't hurt me, and he leaves his 10 cents higher, well, I should pull more customers over here than you do. I've never understood it, but they literally raise their prices with each other. So if they charge $3 across the street, this guy who was charging $2.98 raises his to $3 instead of leaving it at $2.98. Like I do not get it, y'all. I don't get it. Like, wouldn't you want customers to come? But their thought process is, which is a very narcissistic thought process and very counterintuitive. Well, if he can get $3 for his gas, I can probably get $3 for mine. That's their thinking. Versus, he just went up to 3. Let me stay at 2.98 and pull some of his customers over here. Then for that 2 penny loss that I'm taking per gallon, they'll probably come in the store and buy something. So what I lost in gas, I made up for in retail sales. While you're over here jacking your gas prices up, and then they just drive off because they just paid $3 a gallon for gas. They're not going to come buy anything from you. I've never understood it, y'all. Never. I think pettynomics might be my next area of focus because I'm still not done. I still have a lot of stuff to say regarding that issue. Just going through your comments still. That's one explanation. It says the cloud of shame prevents people from trying to improve. Fear of failure, perfectionism. Yeah, it's sad though. It's the only way. You literally have to fail. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But you have to fail a bunch of times to get what you want. Usually, sometimes it's pretty easy, but sometimes you have to keep failing until you get there. So you can keep learning what you did wrong the first time or the second time so you can adjust. Like a lot of people give up in their experimentation phase when they don't realize they're running experiments. Don't get me started. hmm Yeah, this housing market, I just feel like karma is coming for them. And I don't know how, when, or where, but something is going to happen to make it to where basically the real estate industry will be brought to its knees. And I don't know what that is. I really don't. I can't even imagine what that would even look like. But it would have to be something that they lose control of so fast that by the time they're able to create legislation around it, it's already too late. We're all sitting up in houses, might have two. I don't know. I just don't know. But I feel it though, because it can't go on forever. Because my whole thing is like, okay, I mean, California is one example. The question I used to ask back when rent was like $700 or $800, which now seems like a dream. I used to be like, God, I mean, is rent going to be $2,000 one day? Yes. So now the question is, God, are they going to ever get like hit the 6 and 7 thousands for rent? 6,000, 7,000, 8,000? Like, where does it end? And how can you increase rent on something that is depreciating? Be that a house or an apartment. Like those of you who have a mortgage are so, I know you don't feel blessed by your mortgage, but you are because your price is fixed. You are so fortunate to have a fixed price and not have it fluctuating on you every month. Man, like that's one of the main reasons I've been trying to get in a house, just to fix my monthly housing cost. I just want it to stand still. That's it. And not always have to be guessing at Like, okay, well, they're going to go up next year. Will I be able to afford it or do I have to move again? Uh oh. Uh oh. My fiance popped in the chat. Hold on. Let me see. Let me go find it with the super chat. See, my fiance comes correct. My fiance comes with cash in hand. Where is it? Let me find it. It's all the way at the bottom. Hold on. I love it. Limes. Hi, Lime. I was wondering about you. I thought you got mad at me over all the haircut stuff or something. I said Limes went out and got haircut and now he's mad at me. It says PTE, I've missed you so much. I was away for 4 months due to school. By next summer, I will have all the time. Upon completion of my engineering degree, I have not forgotten my marriage proposal. I hear that. Coming through with the $15 super chat. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. And it's good to see you. I was wondering where you went. I said, where did my little fiance go? Where did he go? No, I appreciate it so much. It is good to see you again. And thank you so much for the super chat. All right. So let's see. Let's do a few more and then we're going to round this out. I lost my place though. I lost my place. I was up high and now I don't know where I was. So I'll just start from where I'm at. And we will just pull out a few more and get out of here. It says, I remember Bible verses about those who love darkness always seem weird to me, but yeah, it does seem weird, right? Until you start to finally understand when you see them, you're like, you really do cling to the darkness. You like it. It's almost like they don't want to feel good. Maybe they're afraid of feeling good because they're afraid it won't last very long. So it's easier to just feel bad all the time and feel good and then sometimes feel bad and then feel good again. That's a guess. That is a guess. Yeah, they bodified everybody. They sure did. And it's weird that people don't fight for their minds. Like they don't want their mind back. Like for me, part of the reason I truly prefer living alone is I have a strong need to complete my thoughts. Very strong. Even if I'm just thinking that thought. So I don't have to like vocalize my thoughts to complete them. Just if I'm thinking about something, I have a strong need to see that thought through all the way to the end. And a lot of times, other humans just interfere with that. They really get in the way with me completing my thoughts. You know what I mean? So I bring that up to say that I enjoy being human and feeling like a human. I like what humans do. I like thinking things and mulling them over and completing that thought. I like that. But they just, people are comfortable with the loss of their mind. It's so weird. They just let it go. They don't fight for it at all. Like, for example, this was years ago, but a guy who had some interest in me, but ultimately, you know, I had to cut that off. Well, it never really went anywhere, but he wanted to know why. I said, honey, you are way too hyper for me, honey. I was like, you got way too many words per minute. I was like, I can't process all that. That's a lot. He was like, oh, really? He goes, I can be calm. I can calm down. I was like, nah, I don't think you can, honey. Because literally the first thing this person told me when I met them was that they had just been in like a major car accident the night before. And I looked at him and I was like, well, you look fine to me. So I guess congratulations for surviving. So that should have been my first red flag. But I was like, well, he can't help when he gets in car accidents. But that should have been my first red flag. It wasn't so much the fact that he got in a car accident as the fact that it was one of the first things that he told me upon meeting this person. Hey, how are you? Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah, my name is fill in the blank. Just got in a major car accident last night. Oh, really? Wow. Well, you look healthy. But anyway, ultimately, all that ever happened was one phone call. And in that phone call, I was like, oh no, too hyper, way too much energy, too much everything. And all I could picture was trying to live with that. Like, I can't live with that kind of, I would be so sad. I would get depressed almost instantly if I had to contend with that many words coming at me all the time. You know what I mean? I would get depressed. All right, let's go ahead and pull out one more. And oh, it's an actual book. The Mask of Sanity is a book by Harvey Kleck. Maybe that should be our next one. That sounds interesting. The Mask of Sanity. All right, let me try to find one more. And then we will get out of here, guys. I think this is a good one to close on. It says, love this channel, all in good company here. Absolutely. Absolutely, we're in good company here. And I'm glad you like the channel. And I appreciate you and everyone else who tunes in. Truly, I do. So obviously, there's tons of other great comments, but we have been here 2.5 hours now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for watching. The live chat should pop up pretty quick for this channel. It's the other one that's delayed on. But other than that, enjoy the replay, enjoy the playback. I will be working on the supercut. Probably get that to you around March or April if we're lucky. And I think we'll pull it off. But happy new year to all of you. Why am I saying this like I'm not going to talk to y'all tomorrow at the news break? But still, for those of you who don't come to the news break, happy new year. I hope 2022 is better than 2021 was for you. And if 2021 was good for you, I hope that 2022 is even better for you. Okay. And that is sincere. So thank you all so much for your support over this past year and always. And we will talk to each other again very, very soon. Okay. Bye.